Good.
I go to bed at 9:30. Okay?
Yeah.
I stayed up until 12 o'clock to watch all 8 episodes because I had to know how it ended. If that tells you anything.
It's a bender.
What's it called?
I will find you.
I will find
It's
you.
on
It's really
Netflix.
good.
It's a Harlan. We
Yes,
know it's
that
gonna be
person-
good.
I've been like trying to find more of his stuff.
Oh, he's got them all over
Oh,
Netflix, and it's always gonna be good.
They're so
Hey,
good.
is this another type of show that's like IDTV?
No, it's kind of
Murder
like
mystery.
It's a murder mystery
It's
kind
murder
of.
mystery, but it's intriguing.
Like, it's so much going on.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up.
You don't
told
won't get
us
any
that.
new ideas about how to
Oh, no.
disappear
no,
me.
no,
We'll see.
Well, I don't know, maybe I'm only on the second episode, but it's possible.
they like lie to this guy and tell him that his kid is dead, but he's not, and yeah.
It's,
Oh, is he in prison?
Yeah, he goes to prison for the murder
I
of
did.
his son.
I did see a
For the murder of
preview
his
of
son,
it.
who's
Okay.
not dead.
Okay.
right.
I'm like,
It's so
And
good. That's all I'm
they
saying.
accuse him of it. That's the
yeah.
biggest, like, what?
I can go ahead and tell you what we'll be watching tonight.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
you are
You
tonight.
better take that to the bank. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. House of the Dragon. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Episode 2. Yeah. We will be watching that.
Tell him to oh man, that's not good color.
It's just got a glare.
Yeah.
I can't see it either.
Us
We
us
can't
old
see
folks
that.
can't see
Oh, that's not a good color. That's good. We'll do another color.
Purple will probably work.
Yeah.
this. We need to order.
I hate the cow not
Okay.
looking right.
Black.
I said, I hate the cow looking right.
Oh,
I need to
oh
put
yeah, I
that
can
in
see
my
that.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can see
Oh,
that.
that's so funny.
The orange was just,
He wrote the code in the thin, clay. Don't fit me that. Oh, my eyes, wearing glasses.
The glare and the orange.
I heard him say David. He said David.
Where's Jalen?
She's not working.
Yep.
She's all, she's
She
all
has
got
to
stuff working.
That's okay, because I think she's on the live. Oh, that's crooked as hell. I'll be hyped. What?
What did he say?
Hell?
He did say
I don't care, I cuss. You're gonna have to get over that.
Tony's like,
Hey. Paul cussed. It's okay.
oh, gosh.
So,
Oh, he's loud.
It took me a long time to lose that rhythm.
what was he talking about?
Yeah.
That's so-
It's not so, I don't know how my way to do it. It's not pretty language, but it does come out. We're working on that.
You can't help it. It just,
Yes, that's exactly what we.
Next thing you know, it's like-
They were.
so it just pops out.
They were.
Yeah.
That was the best of
It
us.
took me a long time. I think I finally beat it for the most part.
Alan said, hey,
Alan.
from Florida.
Yeah.
He's watching.
Oh, awesome.
Hello, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Other Alan. He's dude, are they familiar?
They
We met
haven't,
him at the conference. the
they
brain
haven't
conference.
met him.
I would say, dude, they.
No,
We
they
met
haven't.
them.
They'll get to meet him here soon though. He's coming for a visit to
Yeah,
visit his
July.
son, and he's gonna come here and visit us while he's here. Be cool. He lives down there in Florida. Hell's Kitchen right now.
Yeah, Florida is hard right now.
Ooh.
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. It's 5 after, and we got everything up and running. So we're talking about the 10 plagues of Egypt today. We're going to go over kind of a lot of area. Next week, I want to talk about the creation story of Egypt. So I think the best way to do that is use a story and let's get some Egyptian gods in our mind. The 10 plagues is a great way to do that. So if I were to start class, I'd like to start with a question, just so we get our brain thinking. And let me ask, if we were going to show the ultimate power of Yahweh, or God in the Old Testament, to a nation, what kind of miracles or what kind of signs would he perform?
Fire from heaven.
Fire from heaven. It's a good one.
He's going to show himself more powerful than the things that they worship.
Yes, that's what we're looking for. We're going to get started soon, but we're going to go through every plague that happens. We're going to explain which Egyptian god that plague represents and how specifically God shows his authority through doing that. And as we move through this story, you'll see towards the end of the story, we're all pretty familiar. There's a passage that says, God hardens the heart of Pharaoh. That's pretty scary if you're reading it like a Greek reader. Because you're reading a story where progressively more things keep happening, more signs get worse, more calamity comes, the stakes get increased, and then God physically alters the heart of a man. That's how we read it. That's not how the ancient reader read it. Pharaoh represents the literal incarnation of the divine Egyptian gods on the planet Earth for the Egyptians at that time. So as we build this story, you're going to see that the last plague was to directly confront Pharaoh in his authority as a divine ruler. God didn't harden his heart to make Pharaoh sin. He hardened his heart to show he controls the hearts of all. So let's get into that. Do we remember what the first plague was?
Frogs?
Now turning
No.
Blood in the Nile. Blood. The Nile turns to blood. They got some crazy names, so bear with me while I write them. And then under this will be the gods. So we got whatever it is. H-A-D-I. And then Alan did say he would be here on the 12th to see us.
Oh.
Pretty quick.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
King. Happy and Kunum. We're going to go over this more in depth next week, but in Egyptian mythology, specifically, there's two major branches depending on if it's Northern Kingdom or Southern Kingdom Egypt cosmology. So the gods are a little different. So for some of these, you'll see it represented with two gods. It depends on which side of that mythology we're talking about, or which side of their religion we're talking about. Also, both of those are separate from the divine religion. Egyptian mythology was monotheistic at the elite level. So they gatekeep the actual religion from the poor people. Let's see, somebody said it earlier already, but the second plague, frogs. Yep. Frogs, actually, we'll see this theme come back later with the Passover, but frogs represent the Egyptian goddess Heket, who is known for fertility and birth. So, essentially, Yahweh, or God, was coming straight for the deity responsible for fertility or for the continuation of the Egyptian offspring. We're two plagues in, and God's already striking them at their future generations. It's pretty scary stuff. I hate to do that. So what God does is he takes the frogs, sends them out of the bloody Nile, taking a frog out of a clean water source, corrupting it into blood, and he sends and perverts the frog and sends them out of the river. If you're an Egyptian, that's a big problem, because you think the goddess Heket controls all of these things, and you think, Happy and Unum, while they didn't turn the water to blood, that's not what they would do. We worship them. So God is confronting them, and he's meeting these people where they believe it. is showing, no, these aren't your gods, I'm your God. Do you remember what number 3 was?
That's gnats.
Yes, it is gnats.
Is lice a thing?
Gnats and lice, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I got.
I'm like, but is lice a thing?
And that represents the Egyptian god, Geb. Isn't that a name? Geb is the representation of the earth and dust. He represents soil and small parasite insects, is the best way to put it. And there is a distinction from normal insects and parasite insects. We'll get into that now, because if you guys remember, what was the 4th plague?
Flies.
Flies. So they separate gnats and flies in Egyptian mythology. They're completely different. What we would call animal groups, kind of species. You know what I mean? We just see that all these are bugs. They fly around. They're a little different with it. So that was from the god of flies. This is the god of normal insects and the god of creation.
If you fill me in, I was kind of told,
Got you.
get me straight now.
All right, do you remember what the 5th one was?
Moles?
It's isn't it like a plague on
Livestock, where they
Cattle,
all
Yeah,
cattle
a
die?
plague on livestock. We got 5.
Yeah, cows die, and then
Bulls comes in later, I think.
What is?
Does bulls come later? Or is that?
Like whelps on your skin?
Yeah.
That's next.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How did you spell that? I thought they have the most unique way to spell a name.
It must be American.
Huh?
So they must be Americans.
Yeah. All right, that was Apis, which they are the cow and bull deities. So we'll see, like we talked about Heket over here, the deity of frost and fertility. Every Egyptian mythological deity is represented with a human body and some kind of animalistic head. You know, you'll see Ra with the eagle's face, you'll see Anubis with the face of a jackal, or Set with the face of a hound. Very similar. Every god's going to have that. So the livestock not only hurts them in terms of their material foundation of food and having necessity for milk and stuff like that, it shows that their patron god, Hathor and Apis, the deities of cows and bulls, can't even protect their own patron animals. Right? These animals were specifically made in the likeness of these gods, and they can't even stop them from being killed. That's serious stuff for an Egyptian. And you know, as you can see, like, we're progressive. Like, God started with water. Okay, you guys don't listen. I'm going to start with water. I'm going to come for your source of water, the source you trade, how you go places. Okay, you didn't listen to that. I'm going to come for your fertility, your God of prosperity, and your God of good wealth. That didn't work either. So next, I'm going to take the God of the earth and throw him at you. That, you didn't listen either. Insects. Next thing, you know, we jump up from insects to living large mammals. So the progression is serious. We're on a steady heel upstream. Plague after plague worsening. Number 6, Dina just mentioned earlier. That would be boils. Oh yeah, that's crazy. So, Sekhmet, if anybody who's great with their ancient Egyptian, I'm murdering that. Please correct me, but that's what we got for now.
We're gonna take your word for it.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? It's just so particular. Sekhmet is the goddess of epidemics and healing. So she represents, somebody's leg got cut off in war. We're going to go and make a sacrifice to this goddess. She's going to make their leg grow back. Now, whether that happened or not, I have no idea, but they certainly kept doing it for some reason. So I hope it did for their sake. But this more so represented the magicians who were patrons of the goddess Schmidt were incapable of healing any of the Egyptian citizens. So the magicians were on the scene. Pharaoh sent his men out there, he said, go heal them. Guess what they couldn't do? Couldn't heal anyone. Because this wasn't from your God. This was from the God above. Do we remember what number 7 was?
Hell.
Yes.
You couldn't wait. You would think about that the whole time. That's our pastor, by the way.
This one's easy. That one's easy. Nut and Seth. Commonly, I think Seth later gets what we hear Set is how that gets translated into the Latin. So that's kind of, everybody's pretty familiar with Set. That's the bad guy in Egyptian mythology for the most part. Hail, he represents the sky goddess or the goddess of storms, being Seth and Nut, the sky goddess. This proves that Yahweh owns the skies. He's the God of the skies. They can't stop hell from coming. It's great. Let's see here. Do we remember what number 8 was?
I do not.
This is probably the most famous in terms of
Is it locust?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that we had gone over that.
Yeah, there's only so many left, right, before it gets real serious.
Oh, that's a dark dog.
Osiris.
I got a kick. Osiris.
Yeah, Osiris. Osiris is the god of the underworld and the god of the crops. God strips away with the locust, he takes everything. One more important fact, I think we're just going to spend a little bit of time on Osiris here. Osiris has something uniquely common with the Bible. He is the only that I'm aware of in terms of the big mythologies, so Norse, Egyptian, Greek/Roman, where they have a character die, a deity die, and physically resurrected. So that happens to Osiris. Now, they couldn't recover his phallus, so they made a fake one. So even in the own Egyptian mythology, they don't consider him a fully resurrected man. And he never leaves the underworld. So he resurrects and is a deity again. He's powerful, he's in power, he's ruling the underworld, but he can never come back up to the land. He's forever stuck there. So even in their own religion, their big God who saves himself and resurrected is still incapable of conquering death. That's really important to remember, because you're going to hear a lot of people, and it's getting really popular nowadays, who combine a lot of elements of ancient Near Eastern theology, or mythology is more appropriate. So that's Assyrian culture, Egyptian culture, traditional Jewish culture, and then Canaanite culture. And they're trying to combine them into the real religion the Bible is trying to teach. So they're saying the Bible is made up by Satan and that the real God, Yahweh, has nothing to do with it, and you should start worshiping him like they did back in the day. pretty scary stuff.
What are they looking for and why?
Not the right things.
That's-
Power.
And that's the sad part, there's so many that believe that and will follow
You're
that.
fine. Alright, and then I'll
Sorry
make,
about that.
You could-
anybody else have any more notes on this? Because I'm about to erase them for the last two.
Cut it off. Easy to do, not to get cut it back on. This time I forgot to cut it off. It's all quickly made. Seriously, I mean, it's strange. It's a strange new world.
It is, it's crazy.
I mean, I knew it existed, but I never heard anybody explain it. Matter of fact, I doubt if many people could.
Gosh. Horse? Who's how you spell his name?
R-A-L.
Oh, this is like a slash.
Oh, it's a slash, raw.
Slashes to the side.
It's okay, I practiced it.
Is that N-O-U-R-U-S?
Is that H?
It was H, it was H.
It's an H.
Okay, this is okay though, because one day I would have to be very legible. They do not teach penmanship in school. I was absolutely wrong. much people write much worse than I do,
Well,
unfortunately.
that's the way I spell horse.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just keeping it light.
No, you're fine,
Keeping it
brother.
light.
So this is the God of what?
This is the God, this is the God. This is the supreme sun god, deity of deities in Egyptian mythology. Ra is the sun god, Horus is the god of the sky, and the falcon god. In Greek mythology, these two are used interchangeably. So they see Horus as a, what's the word? Envoy of Ra. He's a representative of Ra, just like, so to speak, Christ is a representative of the Father in flesh. More or less. That's the easiest representation for us.
I like how in Exodus, when it's talking about darkness, they describe it as a darkness that you can feel. And I mean, it is.
I read that my whole life and just before I ever got into full preterism, I read it and it struck me how you could feel darkness. It's so dark you could feel it. I never imagined it like that. That come in my mind and that just blew my mind.
Has anybody ever been to the Linville taverns where you can go in the cave and
Not the tavern, the cavern.
the cavern where you can the cavern where you can go in and see the stalagmites and all that. They have an area that they'll let you walk into and they turn the lights off so you can see what it's like in the depth of a cave in the mountains. And that was truly darkness you could feel.
Yeah, I
And
believe it.
it was unreal.
But
You couldn't see your hand.
No, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah,
I would kick me out. I'm gonna turn the lights back on.
Yeah.
I can do this.
It was, you could feel it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's interesting. You'll love it.
She's got a tavern in her mind.
Me and you don't go.
We'll go.
Alright.
So now, imagine that happens.
For,
And also that represents the biggest bad in the mythology you believe. The strongest being that you believe in has been completely shut out.
And you can't get just a little bit of light?
Cannot a single bit. No.
Not one ray.
And before this happens, it says Pharaoh hardens his own heart.
Yeah.
Right? That's the big deal about Plague 9. And takeaway, what happens during this darkness? What do you think Pharaoh's doing? You think he's just in his palace, just sitting there, just, everything's all right? No, of course not.
No.
He's in there losing his mind. So later in chapter 9, we're going to move to the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. For Calvinists, that gets really crazy because they like to do what's called a straw man, which is where they misrepresent scripture or an argument to trivialize a belief. So many people would pose the question. If God hardened Pharaoh's heart, did Pharaoh choose to do what he did? It's an important question. Does Pharaoh have any choice in what happens? What happened with every other plague? What was the intention of it?
To show God's power over that God.
To show God's power over that God. Like we were talking about a little bit last week, we talked about how we've all been grown up and we've talked about Hellenistic thinkers or Greek thinkers, where we think one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, and then we get our conclusion based on all the prior evidence. That's great until we start reading the Old Testament. Because we got to rationalize things. We got to say, okay, in this chapter, or even in this set of verses, what is the author of this trying to portray? And then we move to the next chapter and see, what is the author trying to portray here? They're not writing it linearly. They write it as we need information. So in chapter 8, Pharaoh hardens his own heart. Pharaoh's already done this. There's already a precedent. God doesn't need to harden his heart anymore. Why it matters is because an ancient Egyptian thought process, they understood the heart was central to the body, and it was their belief that the heart is where the soul resided. When the Egyptians died, they would go to the date with destiny, and they would be weighed on a scale against the feather of life. That's what their human heart would be on a scale, and on the other scale would be the feather of life, and they would be measured by how good of a person they were. And if the feather weighed more, they got to go to heaven, and if their heart weighed more, they went straight to hell. An Egyptian belief process. And that's the nice version. The traditional version that they believed for the longest time was the same thing I just told you, with the caveat that you had to be from the elite Egyptian royal bloodline. So if you were a commoner, you were incapable of ever ascending to heaven. You would be in a continuous cycle of enslavement and reincarnation to the Pharaoh. They were really out there. And we'll see this when we go over the Egyptian creation story next week. But the unique thing to the Bible with any ancient Near Eastern text is that human beings were solely created in the Bible for communion and for talking and communication with the Lord. And Egyptian mythology, Assyrian mythology, Canaanite mythology, all of these, humans are created as utensils to do labor for the gods. So already we're starting with a completely different foundational status with the human to God experience in our religion. So these Egyptians genuinely believe Pharaoh is God. God hardening his heart here isn't Pharaoh as a man. He's showing to the Israelite audience, the people being saved, that Yahweh is truly powerful. Yahweh can consume whatever he wants, and Yahweh dictates how this world moves.
Question.
Yes.
When you were talking about how Pharaoh being in his palace, what was going on? Was it messing with his head that there was darkness? And he's like the representative or the god, so to speak.
Yeah.
Would he be the Horus to the Ra?
So yes. So
he's like Pope.
well, vice versa actually in Egyptian mythology.
Okay.
So Horus's only occupation as a deity is for the sole divine protection of the Pharaoh, which I'm about to write.
Okay.
But actively, Yahweh has shut out Egypt's strongest defender of the Pharaoh too.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So Pharaoh isn't just not deciding to listen to God.
Yeah.
He's seen his greatest spiritual warrior utterly destroyed and continues to rebel. You want to know why? The same reason people rebel and the same reason people don't tell the truth today. If Pharaoh did that, he would lose all of his power. He would have to say, I'm not a god.
Here.
Yeah, that's Yahweh. Don't follow me, follow him. And we gotta change a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you know, they didn't want to ruffle up the establishment. Pharaoh didn't want to do that. He kept things the way they were.
Mankind hasn't changed, that's what's going on today.
It's true.
The new
Mankind
sun.
has
Yeah.
not changed.
Well, that old saying that history repeats itself, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that confuses this whole situation, is because things look the same way they look then to them. We see the same kind of things happening, and it's easy to get it confused. Getting it unraveled is the hard part.
Yeah. So
You know why he went crazy? He sent every deity that he known his whole life get conquered. That's why he went crazy.
And I mean,
His world was done.
you gotta ask the question, was Pharaoh aware that he wasn't a deity? That's, you know, depending on which Egypt was very powerful during this time. This would have been at the pinnacle. So
They were.
Pharaoh, as a royal individual birthed into that, he would have not experienced any of the things that the common folk experienced. He wouldn't know hardship. All he would know is lavish gold luxury, and he would have an endless amount of servants to do his will. It would be really easy if somebody told me I was God and I had all those things to believe I was God. When you get treated like it by society, it's hard not to be in the box they put you in. So it's easy to look at Pharaoh.
I think probably at that time, and that's pure speculation, this God that's supposed to be protecting him is now completely dark. So he might have been a little fearful of, somebody's going to come in here and knife me. He might have been a little fearful at that because he didn't have his protector anymore. He's wide open.
One of the things that gets me as you're talking about this, and I appreciate you doing this because it's great. But like 400 years earlier, Pharaoh and Egypt did experience Yahweh's wisdom because Joseph was there, and Pharaoh at the time had a dream, and none of his people could interpret it. The cows coming up out of the Nile.
I was telling you, and this is true just so everybody knows, the more we research about Egyptian mythology, the more we find out that all of the knowledge we have on these multifaceted deities is common knowledge. This is what the Egyptians told the common folk. The actual religious elite of Egypt worshipped monotheistically to Ra. So they believed all these gods were representations of Ra in other forms. So even their own elite worshipped a monotheistic God. And that's common throughout, Assyria, which we're going to do a class on Assyrian mythology too, just so we understand what everybody believed back then. I think that's important. But they did the same thing. They had a god called Ashur, and the religious elite of the Assyrians would monotheistically worship Ashur because they understood him to be the figurehead of the gods for their pantheon.
Seems like every culture has a divine council, doesn't it?
It does. I'm very pro divine council.
But I get what you're saying. Egypt did experience
Yeah.
the goodness of God, the
Yeah.
goodness of Yahweh
Because-
under Joseph's rule.
Because Pharaoh didn't know the dream, the
Yeah.
magicians couldn't interpret it, but then Pharaoh.
I mean, we know the
quickly they
tomb
find.
of Joseph is a thing now. If you guys haven't heard of that, we found the tomb of Joseph in Egypt with no body. So it matches the story in Exodus where they grabbed the body of Joseph.
They
and
took
took him
his
with them.
bones, yes.
Yep, there's no bones in there. It's one of the few Egyptian pyramids we found completely sealed that didn't have a body inside of it.
How about
And
that?
it has a painting that perfectly matches a Near Eastern Jewish at that time named Joseph.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
The one that Ronald Reagan saying when he's president takes one generation to lose everything.
It's quick, it's very quick. That's just a reminder, talking about this, the plagues, how not so long before that, you were under the goodness of God and how quickly you turned.
Well, when he's so good to us, we forget all about him. That's
Quickly you
exactly what
turn.
Egypt did.
That's what we're seeing today.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable how quick it's happening.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about you working at KFC, and you know, back in the day, they thought my mama was attractive. They were very respectful.
Anymore?
That's not for me to decide. But you know, unfortunately, that's not how it is nowadays. So people think my wife is hot. They harass the crap out of her. He even had a man try to solicit her after telling him that she was married. He said, "I don't want to be your husband."
I know what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was, they showed me respect, even though they were like,
Right.
Yeah, we
But
totally
nowadays
lost
they
that.
don't.
They do
There's
not.
no class in society anymore.
No,
Because it's all about me.
what are you doing?
It's all about me.
it's actually pretty disgusting
Yeah.
and disturbing.
Getting worse.
Did that? How do we feel about the block logic there? Do we kind of get it with the 9th chapter and separating Pharaoh not as a man, and the author is representing him as a deity? Not that he was one, just like the plagues affected Egyptian deities. Pharaoh is an Egyptian deity, and that's why in that it's the hardening of his soul. God is just showing he controls Pharaoh. He's not
He's over the gods.
He's a lesser god.
Yeah.
So you're saying on Pharaoh, he wants to put that he was a deity?
That the Egyptians thought he was God on earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Pope.
Now you said block. You said block.
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 B-L-O-C-K.
Now you might want to explain that, and everybody might not understand what you're saying. Well, explain it to me, maybe I'll pay attention.
That's the Hebrew thought process. So it's not Greek logic or step logic, it's block logic, Hebrew logic. That's how all of the Old Testament's written. And then sometimes there can be what's called chiasm, which is just Jewish poetry, which is block logic, but it's block logic mirrored. So if I were to draw what a chiasm looks like,
We're familiar with that from Sunday school.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
and then it.
just put it online.
W.
Oh, no, I can't do that color. Oh,
Look, come over here, there's more. of
nah,
that.
it'll be all right. There's nothing wrong with purple.
It's good color.
Royal.
Good color.
Yeah. So the start of the book would be here, and the end of the book would be here. And you know, we usually think of a story like this, where our story starts here, and our climax, we build to the climax, build down, and we exit the story. No. They start and end in the same point, and the center is the most important point. We get that, you know, the center of our story is similar, but the center more or less is what they would consider the end, and they're going to build back to the beginning. So they tell you the story from the front direction, and then tell it to you from the back direction. Is a good way of thinking about it. Have you guys? I had some questions.
I see hear things though when Pharaoh went to get him and got killed in the Nile. When the Nile come and killed him and his whole army back there in Egypt, they knew their human deity just was gone.
At the Red Sea.
At the Red Sea. So just think what they were thinking after their human deity was gone. their world was shook.
There's no way to know what they were thinking though. But it would be interesting to know.
I mean, it's hard to say. They would switch up quick. It's just different. I think God would have born it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, for real.
I do have one question. You know, how does, you know, even if we just apply it to this story, how does trying to understand block logic help remove tension that would normally be in the Old Testament just because we're not looking at it the correct way?
It makes a big deal, I think. And when we were kind of talking about this last week, with regards to how it affects like death and eternal conscious torment or annihilation. When, and I can't remember who it was that brought it to my attention. It was not on my radar until, not too long ago.
Yeah.
But it does help resolve some things. But being taught to be a Greek thinker just by living in the world that we live in, having that understanding that, there's a different way of thinking, just throwing that into the mix kind of broadens my horizon a little bit.
Yeah.
And
because it makes you think, when are New Testament writers using that kind of logic in a passage too?
yeah, so they're doing something weird. They're taking Greek words and they're mashing it with Hebrew thinking.
Especially Matthew.
Yes.
Matthew is the biggest with that.
And that changes things a little bit.
I think so.
It does. It
So
does.
just so we all understand, like, Greek, like, we have Greek thinking, because we do progressive logic,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
We're
the
not-
law of non-contradiction. You can't
Yeah.
have contradictions.
But in block logic, there is what they would call like they would just assume a set of rules. So they don't think they're contradicting themselves.
Right.
They're just explaining different aspects of God's character.
Yes, and they set it side by side.
Yes, God hardening Pharaoh's heart wasn't him damning Pharaoh to hell. It's
Yeah.
not one and the same. It's a representation of his authority as the ultimate deity.
Yeah. So one of the example that was that comes to my mind when
I was about to
when it
say,
comes
give us
to
an example of
block
this.
logic and how it's okay with tension
Mhm.
or apparent contradiction, or they might call it a paradox.
Yeah.
But I think it's in Samuel. I can't remember first or second, but God is described as somebody who does not change. A Greek would say he's immutable.
Yeah.
He does not change. And then just a couple verses later it says God changed his mind. And a Greek thinker would be like, well, wait a minute, I thought you just said that God don't change. And he changed his mind. And we read about it in other places where God repented of making humanity.
Look at Jonah.
Yeah.
God changes his mind about Nineveh.
Right,
And
right.
pray for forgiveness.
So now a Greek thinker would hear that and say, well, there's a contradiction in the Bible. But a block logic Hebrew thinker
Would
is
just
okay
assume,
with that.
they would assume God is sovereign and his original plan was to do that to begin with.
Right.
They're just trying to explain it to the reader.
Yes.
God never changed his mind.
Right.
God just didn't judge them. God is loving. So God acted on his loving character.
So let me throw something out there. So the way I hear this, block logic is like the list of ingredients. Greek is like, this is how you put it together. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, sort of. That's a good analogy.
You go to Hezekiah too, the prophet told Hezekiah to get ready, 3 days he's gonna die. Hezekiah said, wept sore before the Lord, and the Lord told the prophet, we got gone far, to go back and tell him he had 15 more years. So God really changed his mind, or his love for Hezekiah was so strong, he said, okay, 15 more years.
Now, yeah, the Greek thinker would take a story like that, or any story like that, and say, God had an end, an A
Yeah.
in mind, and he knows how to get his person to that story. So, hey, go tell him he's going to die.
Yeah, whereas the
That's what I
Hebrew
was saying.
thinker explains the sea, and then they end back at the end. They're not finishing a story, they're completing a thought. It's a little different.
Yeah.
What Alan talked about was 1 Samuel 15:29. Samuel declares, the glory of Israel does not lie or change his mind, for he is not a human being, that he should change his mind. This communicates that God is not fickle or learning new information that forces him to abandon his ultimate plan. So we read that as Greek thinkers, and what you said, 1 Samuel 15:11, the text where you're talking about he regretted that he made Saul king, right? You could read that and you would think, how does God regret? God regrets in a sense that he is sorrowful that Saul did the actions that he did. He hates that his people Israel are being treated the way they were by Saul. Not that God knew what he was doing when he put them there.
So right.
David had to come along. David's coming along, Saul's got to be there to take them along.
Well, Saul was their choice. God let them choose. That was their choice.
Isn't that what his name means, chosen?
I don't know.
I think it is. And that's another reason Saul switched names. A foot taller than everyone. He's supposed to be a man of man.
Yeah.
A warrior of warriors.
Good stuff.
Then a shepherd boy comes and kills his thousands of men.
Yep.
Saul only kills his hundreds.
He was made jealous by, well,
We won't go there. Continue on with the next.
That's kind of it for me for tonight. Which we're at 6:50.
well, that was very good. Thank you, buddy. You did a great job.
So the last plague,
Yes.
who was their god over death?
Pharaoh represented the physical god of life, and
Okay.
who did that plague affect?
Couldn't even protect his
Couldn't
own
even
son.
protect his own son.
Okay.
Yeah. Death was Osiris. That was plague 8 before
Okay.
the sun.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Any questions before we wrap up, though? I mean, the class is open for anything.
Where do you start? Where do you start?
I think the hardest thing for trying to wrap your head around is really understanding what block logic and
Yes.
critical thinking logic
Which-
is. That's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
And we can use step logic in the Old Testament, but we gotta preface it. So we gotta set some foundations for us, because that's how we already use step logic or Greek logic in the real world. We start at a base and we say, well, all of these things are true, and these are the things we're going to keep in mind before going into reading this. Same thing works. When we're in the Old Testament, we got to remember God is all powerful, all sovereign, all loving, all good, all wrathful. He's all of those things. And he's always the origin of morality. God is incapable of anything immoral. You use that basis, no problem with Hebrew logic, because you understand it's not contradicting each other. It's just explaining and defining different aspects of God. So as long as we, as Greek thinkers, never try to bring God down into our mortal courtroom, we're fine. We got to keep God up in heaven where he belongs, and he decides what is good and bad. That's not our God.
Yeah. And just remembering that he never does what's wrong. So you can rest easy, rest assured. He doesn't do what's wrong.
I just
But it helps knowing how their thought processes that they had, how they thought about things. That'll actually make your New Testament come more alive.
Yeah.
When Jesus says, I can't tell you the day and the hour, he's using complete marriage.
Oh yeah.
Marriage
or
language.
we talk about clouds.
You
We're not
gotta
talking
know
about
marriage
Going
language to know what
rapturing
that
up into
meant,
the
you know?
sky. Clouds have always historically been a polemic against the Babylonian deity Baal, who they accused Jesus of being multiple times.
Right.
And Jesus himself, during the Transfiguration, it's called Prince of Beelzebul, Prince Baal, goes up to Mount Hermon, has the cloud of God fall onto him on the mountain of Baal. So he goes to Baal's own home territory, who is the cloud rider, and Jesus manifestates, he transfigures his power and becomes the physical cloud rider on the mountain of, Israel's greatest enemy. So, I mean, that's some pretty big stuff once we start understanding Assyrian theology. Jesus was coming in with some...
Those are things that people don't get told in Sunday school classes growing up. It's the basic stuff, David and Goliath and Noah and the ark.
Daniel and
And how much do they keep out of that story?
I know.
David murders the Nephilim.
Yeah.
And then David kills the giants. And, well, we got a whole other group of non-godly, divine things on this world that we have to explain.
Yeah.
That's why they don't tell you. They don't want to go through the trouble of explaining.
It's too hard, man.
And that's why the Book of Enoch was removed from the canon, because it was too hard and too much information.
And it is hard.
People just wasn't ready for it.
But it is hard studying this, trying to learn more. It is hard. It's not easy,
And it's worth it though, isn't
but
it?
it's worth every single minute of it to try to. But it's not easy. Ain't nothing in life easy. Not one thing.
It don't get easy. There's so much.
But it will greatly enhance your understanding of the New Testament if you familiarize yourself with how the Hebrew thought processes in the Old Testament.
And just what everyone believed during that day. Not even Old Testament Hebrews. Like, just so you guys know, this is going on YouTube. We're going to start doing it every week. But it's called First Century Fellowship. And that's because we need to get into the mindset of a first century reader. It's more than just knowing the ancient Near Eastern text. Like I mentioned, the Book of Enoch, or what they would call Second Temple literature, or the Northern Temple, Samaria. We don't get taught that. We don't get told it's important at all. It completely has been removed from the American Christian religion. That's not like that everywhere. The Ethiopian church has kept a completely identical record of the Book of Enoch to what we have in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which predate Christ. That was found in the Qumran caves. I forgot where. It might be modern day Iran.
I thought it was.
Where'd you say?
It's somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's somewhere there.
It's somewhere over there. I'm not a geographer.
Dry and arid.
Yeah, it's in some caves near the Dead Sea. So I may have been totally wrong. I don't even know if Iran is touching the Dead Sea. But that's okay. That's not my job. But yeah. Oh, let's see. Alan just typed in, even understanding the New Testament from the first century's perspective is huge, and I've never heard of it in the typical non-preterist churches.
Facts.
Facts.
We agree, Alan.
And
Yes.
you won't.
No, you won't. You won't at all. And, like when I gave my sermon about Jonah, not only do they not properly teach us all of the curriculum, so to speak, that we should learn, when they do teach us stories, they intentionally trivialize them for children and intentionally never go back and give you all the details. I tell some people that Jonah went to Sheol, and they look at me like they don't even know that Sheol exists. That's okay, it's not their fault. Not even all the Bible translations use Sheol that I'm aware of. Do you know which ones do and don't?
The Legacy Standard Bible does pretty good from what I remember.
KJV does Sheol, doesn't it?
I think so.
I know. NIV, does it?
I don't know.
See, that's where...
I don't have a whole lot of
I think NIV does
experience
change
with
too.
the nearly inerrant version.
All right.
You don't like the 84 edition?
yeah, I'm just messing. I don't like it. I just haven't used it much. But a lot of times they'll do stuff with it like to the pit.
The pit or Hades.
Or abyss.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And they won't strictly
They won't
translate it as
Sheol.
Sheol. No.
Which they should though.
They should.
And it robs a lot of context.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, there's so many. I mean, any minor prophet story, if you were taught it in Sunday school as a child, I highly recommend going back and going through it in magnifying glass. That's where the Reformation started. So, it took them 1,500 years to figure that out.
Back to the sources.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Since we're just online, we're kind of going at this point. Why do they consider preterism heresy outside of the second coming? Do they have a reason?
What do you mean outside of the second coming?
So, like, by traditional church definitions of heresy, we do not disagree on soteriology and we do not disagree on Christology. So what I'm trying to ask is, why have they instituted a third criteria for eschatology, which was never traditionally like a schismatic belief?
Well, they would actually, earlier, if I'm not mistaken, they would actually have called dispensationalism heresy. I think
predates
premillennialism.
Bob did a really good article on that.
Yeah, premillennialism. Yeah. I think the big hang-up is that we interpret it as spiritual, and even a futurist amillennialist, they would say that AD 70 was a spiritual second coming, but they're still holding out hope for a physical.
Materialistic.
So if you do away with the physical second coming stuff, and you don't have that in your system, then you're a heretic.
Yeah, and the confessions.
Yes, and the confessions.
Which is silly because almost no modern church believes the things in the original confessions and creeds. Like they've all completely. I mean, these things were written in the 900s. Of course, we don't necessarily believe everything inside of it. As we grow and we get more information, we learn new things, especially nowadays. I mean, we're privileged to have the Bible with us pretty much everywhere we go. For a really long time, people didn't get that. So it got to be a corporate entity where religious power became the only fuel for success, and then they corrupted a lot of things. But thankfully, we've been trying to fix that. Like he alluded to earlier, the Schofield Bible, from my understanding, was the biggest Bible once it released. It sold like complete soon.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
And look into who financed that.
Look at, yeah.
It was Rothschilds.
Oh, shit.
And then they instituted Christian Judeo values. It was a lot.
Rothschilds.
That's interesting though, because I don't know, I've tried to ask and talk to non-preterists about that, and they can never really give me an honest answer on why they think we're heresy. Other than
Because we
outside
think
of the second.
Jesus has come back and then they've been left behind. What?
But they appeal to church authority, and the church authority they appeal to wouldn't consider us heresy. So they fall by their own sword. Every direction it falls. Every direction. It's crazy. It's just disappointing.
Yeah, you asked me about, one time about I don't remember one time in the time period that I went there that they ever mentioned the rapture.
The second coming?
And
They might not be. They're probably not dispensational.
and I don't know if they are or they not, but they didn't ever talk about it. And they got their own pattern of, they got a pattern they got by
Yeah, liturgy.
a liberal pattern, and it's not, it's educational. I mean, you know, it's good, but it's not everything you need.
No.
It's, in my personal experience, it's a lot of, I don't know the word for it, but it's a lot of ritualistic stuff
Yes.
that they go through. They have written prayers, which they try to cover everything in the prayer, and when you, after you read them so many times, you memorize them by heart, you know. And it's good prayers, but it's just trying to cover everything, and in my opinion, they're missing stuff because it becomes automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that?
The Episcopal
The
Church.
Episcopal Church.
You see, I was Episcopalian for many years. But I've attended all kinds of churches. That's one reason I noticed the differences between them. A lot of it's got a lot of it's got to do with the minister, how he wants to present things, because you take the Baptist churches as you got the greatest wide dimension of things.
Yeah.
As far as, you you got your
Fundamentalist, Southern Baptist.
and then you got your free will
Yeah.
and so many different characteristic changes in the church. But I don't know, I went there and I felt good about what I heard. I've heard some good things, and then I've been to Methodist, and I've been to Methodist church, a lot of them one today. But, it was for a different purpose, but.
That's all right.
But I've been to, I don't know, I hadn't been in a Catholic church.
Episcopal's pretty similar to the extent, I think they believe in the sacraments.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so they broke off from the Church of England, I believe.
I think,
then-
it's more of a break off from the Catholic Church.
During that time period in England, and then they wanted to keep a lot of the high church elements from the Catholic Church, but they disagreed with some of the politics in the Catholic Church.
Well, even that has changed over the years, because when I was young and I went there, it was less high church. It was a whole lot like this.
Yeah.
But then as time went on, it went more like high church.
Different minister getting there.
Yeah, different ways they
Just run.
presented things and the characteristics of what they did. A lot of kneeling and standing, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kneel prayer.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one. Bloody hell.
I love you too, buddy.
Alright, well, I guess it's 7:03, so we'll wrap it up.
Thanks, buddy.
Any
Did good.
closing comments from anyone?
Great job.
God is good.
All the time. Alright, perfect. We'll end it.
Yeah, I told you I was gonna go over and sit down through it.